Yo, 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 what's good? It's your boy J-Dog back here with another knife review. All right, I'm going to go ahead and drop that now. This is a knife that probably everybody and their cousin is going to have a review of coming out here very, very shortly. This is the Civivi Elementum button lock variant. And in a very key way, the blade is actually a little bit longer on these guys. It's 3.4 inches, so it's a little bit longer. And for me, that's fantastic because it means that I can actually get all four fingers all up on that knife. The normal Elementum was a little bit more of a 3.5 finger, or I could really cramp my fingers up there. But yeah, so that improves things a little bit for me with having these big old mitts on me. So yeah, the action on this thing is quite nice and really fun to play with. And I don't necessarily have a problem with worrying that I'm going to disengage the knife. But, I mean, even if I was, I'm already cutting, so it's not going to end up closing on me until, I would pull it out or anything like that. So, for that, it's all right, even with this pinch grip, because I do have my thumb hitting the button there, but not even squeezing as hard as I can. It's not going to do it. I actually have to use the tip of my thumb to be able to disengage that. So there is that. Yep, the action on this thing is quite nice. It does lock closed and open. So, if you want to open it two-handed, you can, but you do have to remind yourself that it is locked closed. So, a couple of things here. The pocket clip on this guy. It is nice that we do have flush screws. The pocket clip isn't actually inset into the micarta. Not necessarily all that big a deal in this particular case because we do have flush screws and the pocket clip is a little thin. That is a point of contention with me, though, and something that isn't exactly lost on me with Civivi's clips in general. They feel a little dainty to me. This one in particular, like when I'm actually gripping the knife, I can feel this thing moving and shifting and bending and whatnot, which worries me a little bit. In the fact that if something actually catches the pocket clip on your pants or whatever, I do feel like this pocket clip will probably bend and mangle itself into something horrible that you'll want to most likely replace rather than just try to bend back into place. I don't know. I haven't really tried, but they do feel a little more or a little less substantial than I would personally prefer. The next thing is we do have shadow box liners on here. The liners are a little bit proud, so shadow box scales, I guess. And that's kind of a personal preference thing. It's not my absolute favorite. They kind of get around that with this knife with having the jimping up here and having basically your hand, avoiding having your thumb kind of back here where a lot of other knives would be. So you are kind of moving that up to something that's a little bit more comfortable for you. So that's kind of interesting there. Let's see, what else do we got? We have this particular variation is kind of the olive green micarta. And this has a black blade on it. Civivi, to my knowledge, hasn't really mentioned exactly what kind of blade coating that they like to use. In this particular instance, to me, it feels like a cerakote. But, I could be wrong. And in very, very, very tiny letters up here, you can see it says 14C28N. So it's not using a D2 or they've used N690 in a couple of them recently, I do believe. Probably because they can get it relatively easy from Bowler, in which they also use M390. So that does make sense. But, I always like seeing Sandvik as another option. So yeah, we got a nice hollow grind on this blade. And it's because of that, it's not a full flat grind. It's kind of a high saber grind kind of thing, which, hey, I absolutely love that for sharpening purposes when I actually have to use this as a reference point. Makes things quite a bit easier to do that way. I guess you could probably sneak up on this a little bit. To me, that's very much not comfortable, so I won't be doing that. But, there's at least that option. And we do have this little micarta backspacer here rather than G10, which is what you usually see on micarta scaled knives. So that's pretty interesting. I do kind of appreciate that consistency going on there. All right. So I do want to take this apart. It is a little interesting on the inside. It's a bit different than other button locks that I've kind of taken a look at. It is a little bit challenging to try to get back together, though. So I will have a caveat of that. Of, hey, unless you absolutely want to disassemble this thing, it's probably in your best interest not to. That being said, I was curious, and so here we go. All right, I take the clip off because it's screwed into the liner there, so I can fully disassemble that. We have 2 little back spacers there, and it's actually screwed in from both sides, so it's a barrel in the center. It's not a Chicago screw stud kind of thing going on there. Alrighty, and you can see on itty bitty little guys here. They all have Loctite on there, so that's nice. I do like that addition. What I did notice is that the pivot on this guy, I've cleaned off most of it, but it had a whole bunch of white thread locker on there. That was much more difficult. I don't think it was permanent necessarily, but it was very, very strong. And it coated a lot of the inside ring on here, and on the inside, it coated a lot of the pivot as well, which, I did a little bit of cleanup and everything on. So, just keep that in mind. It will be just a little bit challenging trying to get there. But, okay, yeah, on the inside, hey, just flip that right off. That's great. So, you can see this thing has kind of a strange liner lock-ish thing kind of going on here. And that's kind of in the place of the usual button lock spring, which I do find quite interesting. But, let's see. Go ahead and release the blade, and I can pull this all apart and everything. So yeah, we got ceramic bearings in the brass cages. And we do have quite a bit of skeletonization going on, which is great. And they've done a really good job of balancing all of this. It does have a little lanyard bail pin that I actually forgot to put back in place the last time that I had disassembled this guy. But if you're not familiar with some of Civivi's kind of things, they don't have a D-shaped pivot to them, but they do have a notch, as you can kind of see here. And that fits into a specific groove in the handle scale there. That way, it does give you the torque ability to be able to take that out, but it puts all of that on the scale there. But it also correctly orients the C so that the show side always looks the way they want it to look. So yeah, something that I did notice the first time that I tried to put this back together is, usually you will see when I'm reassembling knives, I will basically have the blade sticking out. In this particular case, with the assembly on this thing, with this bit right here, if you do that, this isn't properly engaged with the blade, so it it basically kind of blocks that. So when you try to go ahead and push the button to close the blade, you will, and it will close up until the blade tang hits that, and you can't actually close your knife. So yeah, certainly something to keep in mind there when you're putting it back together. Just one of those fun things that I experienced myself while trying to deal with all of this. Oops. Yeah. And yes, this is steel. It's not plastic or anything like that. And if I knew exactly where I put my magnet, there we are. Yeah, there you go. I appreciate that for longevity. Not a whole lot or not all of the manufacturers of button locks really do that. So yeah, I was happy for that. But okay, so this thing is a little challenging to try to get back in there. But yeah, so keep that in the closed position so that is actually in the correct spot there. We got the 2 blade stops and the lanyard bail on there. And yeah, this does get a little fun. I do tend to like to push the blade or the blade pin forward. That actually gets to engage back with the liner because you can see we got 4 posts that all have to line up there. And yeah, this went a heck of a lot smoother than the last time because I was prepared for all of that. And I didn't have enough pressure on there, which makes me sad. So I had it, and then I didn't have it. It happens. All right, so there's most of it, except for that has actually come out and spun. So yeah, this guy is not exactly the easiest knife ever to reassemble. It's not terrible. I've dealt with much worse. Most access locks are a bit of a pain there, but all right, I'll do it. Well, didn't really mean to go all Matthew McConaughey on you there. All right. But here we are. Okay, so yep, make sure that engages and then spin them closed. And make sure that we have the correct blade stop pins all up in place. And okay, so you'll want to keep the pressure on the back side here a little bit as you slap this liner on. Make sure you don't have any little lint or fuzz or anything going on there. I generally want to push the button forward because you can see we have, as I had mentioned before, 4 posts that all have to meet up there. And the button lock one is actually the most difficult to get engaged. It's not the only one that's difficult. Sometimes this guy right here has given me a little bit of problems. You know what? The lanyard bail came out again, and well, I suppose I'll put it back in. Yep, so this guy is a little finicky to put back together, as you can see. Luckily, it's very reliable and everything once it is. So, all right. Looks like I got everything there. Set it down and keep the pressure on it. Until you at least get the blade pivot back in there. So yeah, there we go. All right, we're back in business. Yep, you do want to make sure that nothing hasn't perfectly stopped up there. Sometimes one of the two blade pins can get a little bit funky on you, so you want to make sure that they're all flush and everything. But yeah, other than that, not too bad for trying to put everything back together. I will want to reapply some, excuse me, Loctite to this, just so I can keep it in that nice, secure kind of thing going on there. But yeah, we can go ahead and get this clip back on here to finish the reassembly. I do appreciate that they've at least allowed you to have the pocket clip on both sides, which is not something that the Norma Elementum has, at least to my knowledge. I don't have it right here in front of me because I don't own one myself, but yeah, once it is all back together and everything, the action, super fantastic. And yeah, I did have just a tiny little bit of a button lock stick when it first came out of the box, but dealt with that pretty easily by doing the disassembly, and then just a little dab of KPL in there. It really helped kind of loosen that up. So yeah, super fidgety knife. Reminds me a lot of the fidget factor, and size for that matter, of the Benchmade 940. We can see it's just slightly longer in handle and blade, but they are very, very, very similar in size. See, there's also Spyderco Paramilitary 2, which a lot of people also kind of have. It has that same kind of blade length going on there, but yeah, the Paramilitary 2's handle is a little bit longer than a lot of other knives out there. And why not? We'll go with another button lock. This is the Kalashnikov 74 from Boker. And yeah, it's just a little bit shorter as far as handle and blade, but a little bit taller. So there you go. This guy has quite a few variants going on him. This was the one that I particularly picked up and wanted. This has kind of olive micarta. Very nice vertical sort of grain kind of thing going on there, which I do like quite a bit. Shows that either whoever made the micarta for them or them themselves, excuse me, they're really putting a lot of attention to detail and getting that very nice and straight, and then also cutting it that way. Something that you know, Tucson might want to think about stepping their game up, and they have on a few, but most of them not so much. But yeah, so there's a couple of them in green. There's a darker micarta variant that has a light color, or you know, not a coated blade on there. And that one, the color on it just wasn't really speaking to me that much, so I went with this one here. They do also have a little bit more fancy versions with some carbon fiber and whatnot going on there. And that has their Damascus blades. This is actually a Civivi Praxis, but it's what I have from Civivi in their Damascus steel line. And well, the thing about it is that Their Damascus steel is based off of 9CR 18 MOV, which is it's right around 440C kind of levels of performance. Which 14C 28N, it's a bit better. So I definitely wanted to go with that, and so I did. But I do have to say those carbon fiber variants do look super snazzy with the black and red accents going on the carbon fiber and whatnot. So, the only other thing that I could really think of is recently they had come out with some Elementums, the standard flipper variants that had CPM S35VN, and that might be a nice, worthwhile upgrade on these. These I think they sell for around $66 or something like that. But heck, if they increased it to 100 and dropped in a S35VN blade or something like that, I would have probably gone for that. Just because I don't have all that much S35. I have a few from Cold Steel, but that's about it. But hey, what are you going to do? 14C 28N is still a great steel, and a ton of my knives have it because that's what a lot of Tucson uses. But yeah, it's a very, very fidget-friendly knife. And fairly thin, too. Go ahead and measure that. I believe it's a little less than half an inch. Yeah, 0.45, somewhere, just a little bit under that, which is a little bit thinner than Paramilitary 2. So that's pretty cool. We have a 3.4-inch blade on the guy, which is a little bit longer than the normal one there. And we basically have right around 3 millimeter for the blade stock thickness. So yeah, my overall thoughts on this guy, quite nice. I do have a problem with Civivi's clips feeling a little thinner or less robust than I would particularly prefer. There's also the Shadowbox liners, which that's kind of a personal preference thing, and I'm not the biggest fan of that. So there's that. And absolutely out of the factory, it wasn't exactly the sharpest edge in the known universe. It wasn't dull, it was just kind of a little bit rolled over, but I did basically set it a little bit to my profile. It has a high saber grind on there, which I like quite a bit because I do have a reference plane on there to do some sharpening, whether I'm using a clamp-based system or using it on a flat reference when I'm doing belt sharpening or whatnot. Helps out quite a bit there. It is hollow grind. It, to me, kind of felt like using this plane as a reference point, that the blade was probably sharpened right around 18 degrees. I did change that down to 17 because that's what I usually do for 14C 28N. But because this is a hollow grind, I do kind of think that 18 degrees might have been just a little bit, more tuned specifically for it. So kudos to them for that, except for the actual sharpness out of the box really needed to be improved. But yeah, so I will be doing a lot more cut testing and whatnot with it over time and seeing if this 17 degree angle holds up as well. But so far, I'm really liking this thing. And yeah, it's a hell of a lot of fun to play with, especially if you're very used to axis locks. It's almost the same kind of idea and motion, except for you're pushing in instead of pulling back. But yeah, super cool idea for doing a button lock without having a spring encapsulate the button lock or plunge lock itself. And yeah. Super happy with this thing. But yeah, that's basically everything that I think I have to say about it. So I will go ahead and leave it at that. As always, I appreciate y'all for watching, and I hope you have yourselves a wonderful rest of your day, yo.